Hello, good afternoon, evening. Welcome to a Garden by Janet and Steve uh, webinar. Gardeners learn best through hands-on, and you can work alongside us. We're going to be trying to do a few Garden by Janet and Steve's this year live in person. We do them at the Waterford Library every second Wednesday this year. Tonight, we're going to be talking about tool care, clean, and sharpening. We both have written articles. I wrote for the Michigan Gardener. Janet wrote for the Detroit News and wrote a few books. And we both participate in what we put on gardenatozorg, our website. This week in our garden, there usually has our newest information. There are some notes from this that are from a past newsletter that we have. We're going to start just going to do a little bit about clean and sharpening hand tools. An example of hand pruners. Oops. You'll be at the, you really will be amazed at the difference this makes. It's a process that you need things like lubricating oil. WD-40 is great. I like a Scotch-Brite pad, those green pads. They have a nice texture. They don't peel off. Steel wool, sandpaper, anything rough can kind of help. When you work with hand pruners, if you get a wire brush, a little small wire brush might be very good. Rag, you need often more than one rag. Small screwdriver, maybe, depending on the style of pruners that you're going to use. Pocket honing stone and or files. Honing stone, we find, sharpens hand pruners the best. Honing oil so that the stone works. There's some stones that work with water. We prefer the oil, and I'll explain why when we get there. And if you have wood-handled tools, though, if you want to work with it, linseed oil is the type of oil that works really well on the handles to help them prevent from drying out and cracking. And you're going to need elbow grease. This is some of these pruners, if they're like ours have been, they kind of get abused over the season, and sometimes multiple seasons before they're rescued. And bandages, yeah, be careful. You're working with a sharp instrument, you're working with tools, and that's just one one tool sharpening session that she wasn't careful on. So it's interesting. So that's a collection of the stuff that we use. The stone and pruners. Steel wool can be used. This is the oil for the stone. This is if in case you need something to help loosen the penetrating oil, and WD-40. And then you could do the same things with your pruners and other hand tools. Add the screwdriver. And so they're quite a dirty pair of pruners. They've been abused. The blade is dark. They're very dirty and much need a sharpening. They're a dull blade. Dull blades are not good for tools. You have to clean the tool, especially the cutting edge, and sharpen the cutting edge. It's the cutting edge you have to sharpen. Very few blades have double sharp edge. That is most of our hand pruners and loppers have a single blade, a single side cutting. You need the oil for the metal and the wood. And to clean the blade, first you clean the spring and mechanism, and you sharpen the outer edge of the blade, not the inner edge. And you start by squirting the WD-40, the penetrating oil, some kind of oil on there. It helps work the rust up. It helps coat the metal as you're working with it, so a lot of the debris slides off rather than getting stuck on there. And after you spray it, you could use the pad or the steel wool to clean the metal surfaces. And it's just a matter of constantly rubbing back and forth, back and forth. I think I'm using hand signals and you can't see me right now. The elbow grease comes into play. That's where you really have to work hard. Uh, if you're not pressing hard, some of that sap, resin, even little bits of debris can cause problems. So keep working at it. Add more oil if needed. Um, you just keep going back and forth. You look at it, you can see it's getting a little bit shinier. This is not going to be a brand new blade when you get done with it. It's not going to look like, uh, you know, in one movie I saw, they took a blade to sharpen it and he comes back and he's got a brand new sword. No, that doesn't work on these things. On this style of pruner, you can change that blade out and not go through this process if you want. But I prefer to sharpen them, especially the Falcos, because the blade lasts, the blade itself lasts a long time. It's a good steel blade. Um, so you want to make sure that everything gets clean and if you don't get it away, it's harder to cut. There's a lot of friction. It gets into the all in the blade. This is a pair that we've kept clean, and yet you can see where the sap starts to build up both on the cutting edge and on the inside edge. And it and that's a pair that's done on. Oh, yeah. And sometimes you have to maybe find a different fluid that might work. Turpentine seems to remove sap really well. So alcohol might do well too, but we tend to use the turpentine. And you could see the drips of the oil in that come from just rubbing and working on that. Resort to steel wool. Notice wearing gloves to protect our fingers. I think it helps because you could slip real easy over that blade, and even though it's not super sharp, you get little nicks and get some of this debris in there that could cause some issues. So again, it's a lot of elbow work where you're continuously back and forth cleaning. Add more oil as necessary. It's getting there. Better clean the top edge too. You can start to see you're starting to get it, but it's hard to get into these areas of a hand pruner when you're just using your hands back and forth. So you may have to get in there, work the steel wool in there real hard. You do not want to sharpen a dirty, rusty edge because the dirt will scratch the blade. Tiny bits of rust will be dragged out. Pressed into a new blade, it's going to rust fast enough. We're gardeners. The first time we use it, somebody's going to leave it outside. And, you know, but you don't want to encourage seeding more rust. So that's why we try to clean it as best we can and get the rust off too. I can't remember how long this process took. Janet and I took the photographs. She did the sharpening. We did it in a hotel room in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, before giving a lecture on sharpening. No, we were given a lecture on garden maintenance, but we decided to set this up as a screen saver while we were waiting for people to come in. So it was a continuously running slideshow. So some of the images were actually meant to go a little bit quicker than my pace, but it's a lot of rubbing, a lot of elbow grease. You really try to get those areas clean. Again, if they're really bad, it's quite a significant change when you really work at it and get it done. And now you flip it over and get the outside edge. That was just the inside. Now you're doing the outside edge. Same procedure, oil, scour, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, more and more. You can see this is the beveled edge of that's the cutting edge right there, the outside edge. And you see, look at the buildup of the grime and the dirt. Yes, we've been spraying oil, but oil does not go have bubbles too often. It's smoother. And that's from all the grime and dirt that you have to work at to get off. But like I said earlier, it's tough to get the crevices. That's where a screwdriver tip, something along those lines might help to push it in. If it's in this style of pruner right here, the Felco and its knockoffs, you can, oh, you can replace the blade, but they are the same pruners we started with. From that quite poor shape to now, at least they have a chance to be good sharp pruners. We're just about going to be starting season 5 and 8. We have the schedule there. I think our first webinar is season 5 is in April. And then we're going to, this year we changed things around. We're going to do a Saturday webinar once a month. The schedule, if you go to our website, garnetz.org, click on webinars and go to season 5 schedule, you could see we have 12 brand new webinars, but on this season, on the Fridays that we aren't doing webinars, I think we're going to have a 7 to 8 o'clock meeting where it's a free-for-all question and answer, and not much is going to be prepared. So we're looking forward to this new type of format and see how it goes. There'll be more information coming, and there is information on the website. Now, after you've cleaned that really well, you can sharpen the blade. First of all, you should clean the spring too. Get that all cleaned up and taken care of. It could cause a lot of freezing in that. And again, on this manufacturer, you could buy a new one. So you clean the spring area first. Same deal, oil, wipe, scrub, get it clean. The spring works a lot better once it gets a little bit clean. You'd be surprised how much gets in those little gaps there. And then you could clean out in the other side of those gears that were all tore up. And every little bit of drag wears on your muscles. When you're pruning and using your hands a lot, those muscles get used a lot. So drag, it slows it down and makes for not so good cuts. So try and get in there and clean it as best you can. A lot of elbow grease again. And then use a screwdriver if you have to get into crevices that you can't clean. Where that spring sits should be clean too. As clean as you could scrape it. It's a lot of sap built up over time. It sits better. That spring sits a lot better. So that's the finished inside.